We're here with Coach Uwarow of the men's basketball program. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about Bruins basketball, but particularly, your journey in coming back to Bob Jones University. Bob Jones has always been a part of your life. Basketball has always been a big part of your life, and it's just neat to see God working in your story to combine both of those elements and bring you back as head coach of the men's basketball team. So talk a little bit about your story.
We moved here in 1985 from San Diego, California. My dad had been at Bob Jones University press rep out there, and Bob Jones asked if he would come be one of the principals at the academy, and so that's how I was first introduced to Bob Jones. My parents had met here and married after they graduated from here, so Bob Jones has always been a part of my life. I've always known about it, but I didn't encounter it myself until I came here for middle school. And I lived in the gymnasiums here. I felt like I had really the idyllic childhood, being able to always have somebody in the university to play with almost 365 days a year. So I grew up at the academy, graduated from the university, and I coached locally at Malden Middle School, Malden High School for a little bit as an assistant coach, and then moved to Fredericksburg, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., and coached there for a number of years. I came back, worked at Malden High School for another year, and then went down to Atlanta and started a program, and was there for 7 years. And through a variety of situations in both Coach Ring's life and my life, God worked in both of our paths, directed both of our paths, where I had the ability to come back here and be the second Bruins basketball coach.
Yeah. And you have talked about, I know in recent times, in recent interviews, you've said, for some coaches that dream job is Duke or North Carolina or something like that. And something very interesting, one of the first times we met, you said, this is my Duke, this is my North Carolina. Talk about that.
Well, the reason I say that is when you're younger, you think that the people that you see on TV, that if you reach that status, you're successful. And as you grow in your Christian walk and you just mature as a coach and as a man, you realize what's important. And only at a place like Bob Jones can I coach the way that I want to, or I want to use basketball as a platform for ministry. I can't do those things in public school. And while I enjoyed the talent level of some of the public schools kids that I coached, I didn't enjoy not being able to share the complete Coach Uwarow with them and really pour everything that I have into them. I felt like I could only go so far, and then they just had 1/4 of me. They didn't have 100% of me. And so I really enjoyed my time coaching at Christian schools, and I think God has prepared my path with both public school and Christian school coaching into being able to coach here, because I have players here from both of those backgrounds, and I think that I understand them maybe a little bit better than maybe a coach who had only coached in Christian schools before.
Coach, you've talked about how your coaching philosophy has kind of evolved over the years as well. When you got started, and as any coach, it really is all about the wins and losses. How many championships can I put under my belt? And you talked about how as time began to go on, your coaching philosophy became so much more, that it was so much more than just wins and losses, although that important. You want to invest in these players' lives. So just talk about that transition and how God really began to show you the ministry side of coaching.
I struggled with knowing whether I was saved or not for a long time in my life. And I came back here after earning a degree. I came back when I was almost 30 to get another degree, and I ended up getting saved here when I came back. And when I got saved, I had already been coaching in public school a little bit, and I coached at the academy, and I thought that you just needed to be a successful coach. You had to show that you could win championships, and if you didn't win championships, you weren't a successful coach. And God gradually changed my heart, and I had wonderful coaches here that lived that out, and I didn't realize what I had when I had them. So for the past 15 years, God has really changed my philosophy. I really believe that if the body of Christ is doing what they're supposed to do, each of us has a niche group that we are tailor-made to minister to. And I could not minister to a flute or violin player because that's not the area that I'm passionate about. I wouldn't know what to talk about. We don't have any common ground. But with these young men, we have the common ground of love for basketball, and we can start a relationship with that. That kind of gives me an inroads and a path to get into their life and talk about other things that are going to affect them for eternity.
Let's pretend I'm a recruit and I'm coming to join Bruins basketball, and I want to talk about the X's and O's of playing in Coach U's system. What am I going to expect?
I love to get the ball down the court quickly. I love to play positionless basketball. That's the way the Europeans have played, and we used to think that we were better than the Europeans, but the Europeans have, in the past 2 decades, have really showed us the way basketball should be played. And through camps that I've worked at with other European coaches, and really coaches from all over the world, it's given me a global perspective, not just an American perspective on how basketball can be played. And while I don't have all of those pieces this year, we have some definite people who are centers and definite people who are point guards. I love, that is my goal as we go through recruiting, is to have positionless basketball and really make our name on the defensive end. I love to break the other team's practice habits. And if you can go into every game knowing the 2 or 3 things that they like to do, and you can take those things away from them, you're going to have a lot of success.
What about off the court? You know, I come and I know, and I reference this just because you've talked to me before about some of the history that you've had with other players of, you know, the involvement that you take in their life on a spiritual level, but even just in a caring level of befriending them and mentoring, discipling them. So what can I expect off the court, outside of practice, from Coach U?
Well, the last school I was at there for 7 years, and every year I was there, I either had a player get saved or a player dedicate their life to the Lord. I just recently was able to help a young man with assurance of his salvation. He's a freshman here, and he's been under the preaching of the Word every day in chapel and been in Bible class. And he's hearing things that he's never heard. He's hearing some things for the first time, and it's really caused him to evaluate where he's at, and he's heard what we've talked about in our team devotions, and that's what I love. That's what makes everything worthwhile, whether we're successful on the scoreboard or not. If you're affecting somebody for eternity, that's way more important to be in God's Hall of Fame than man's Hall of Fame. And because I had that modeled for me here, I really want to be that for somebody else.
As you look forward, I know you're early on in your career with the Bruins, but you know, if you can put yourself ahead 5, 6, 7 seasons now, what do you think are the main 1 or 2 points that you're going to build on for the future here in the next 5, 6 years?
Well, I think you have to build on character. If you have all the other wonderful traits that people say you need to be successful, if you don't have character, eventually those traits don't really mean anything. And character embodies integrity, saying what you say and what you do match. And that's a tough thing for anybody to handle, especially 18 to 22-year-olds. But if we are built on character, that comes from leadership, that comes from Coach Ring to me and my assistant. And if we're modeling that and we're reinforcing those things, that is our culture. Your culture is what you say and what you do when they match. That's the culture that you have when your kids are doing that, when you're not around. That's the kind of culture that you have built on character. And obviously servant leadership. All the Bruins teams have done a really good job about serving at their school and serving in the community, and the community feeling welcome here, and our team representing the community.
All right, that's going to do it for Coach U. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you.